As we are, of course, in this international break, it doesn't mean we won't talk about some of the key issues domestic football-wise in terms of Liverpool. They are atop of both the Premier League and the Champions League. And what a start it has been for Arne Slot. Who'd have thought he would have made such an impact in such a short space of time? Long way to go, of course, but the next Premier League game for them is against Southampton. That is then followed by what will be a key match, Cass, and that is the visit of Manchester City. If Liverpool win both of those games, then the gap between themselves and City would be a minimum of 8 points. Wow. Let's go back to the start of the summer when we knew Jurgen Klopp was leaving and Arne Slot was coming in. Did you really anticipate that you would be in this position?
No.
Both, I'd say, top of Champions League and the Premier League too.
Well, it's not only Champions League, it's the goals against column in the Champions League as well. The 10 goals for, 1 against, it's nearly identical. Well, say nearly. Liverpool got 21 goals in 11 games and conceded 6 in the Premier League. And Liverpool, asking me what's worked, basically everything's worked. So it's like, well, defences work brilliantly, the midfield and the introduction of Curtis Jones and how he's playing this season, and then you look at the forward line and how they're working and how dangerous they look. Everything that Arne Slot has done so far has worked. Now, you've had one result, Nottingham Forest. Well, I would give full credit to Nottingham Forest in that game.
Yeah.
They done a number on Liverpool. They really made it as difficult as they could. They stayed in a game, and they've ended up picking Liverpool on one moment in a game and punishing them. But that was a really well-organised performance by them. Liverpool have been sensational from the start of the season.
So what has he got right to have
everything
to get them clicking, though, as well as they have? But what? There must be something.
Well, okay.
What was lacking last season with Jurgen Klopp?
Now, one thing I would say...
Which might be a bit harsh to say lacking.
Well, what was last year? There was clearly a number of issues that Jurgen Klopp had with certain players. Okay. Obviously Henderson leaving, he didn't want to stay, and he'd had Milner the season before that eventually called it a day. He'd had some tough decisions, and then you had the Mo Salah decision. Then you had they would have known about Van Dijk's contract and Trent's contract and all there were things that were going on behind the scenes, I'm sure, that a little bit of division somewhere. Not a lot, but enough. Harmony has been the reason. I'm looking at that group and thinking they're all giving their absolute all in games. Yeah. Okay?
Yeah.
I watched Mo Salah being like a new signing for Liverpool. That was a big thing. He's been such an instrumental player for them. The fact they didn't sell Diaz. And I'd add one more to you they need to do. They need to make Kelleher the number 1 as well. I think Kelleher is going to be... I'd hate to see him go because Alisson's had injuries over the last few years and he's a terrific goalkeeper. He's a fantastic goalkeeper. But I think Liverpool and what I've seen from Kelleher this season, how he's grown, his ability on the ball, he's got a much bigger confidence than he had 18 months ago, and rightly so, he's playing more football. Now in Ireland, he's now become Ireland's most important player. And he's going to have to be the most important player when they play England tomorrow for Ireland to have any chance at all. Kelleher has moved up pretty quickly, and I think it'd be a mad mistake. And I think in some ways Arne Slot might look at Kelleher and think he is the future. Yes, we've made a goalkeeping change. Alisson was our number 1. I'm not so sure he'll drop Kelleher when Alisson's fit. I'm not convinced by that at all. He's been sensational for Liverpool.
That's a big player to drop, though.
Well, it's not a case really of being dropped, Nat. It's the guy that's took over from you has been so good.
No, but we would talk about it as being dropped because whenever...
You're battling for your place.
Well, yeah, automatically when a player of his calibre and someone who's been one of the first names on the team sheet, as soon as they get fit, you're like, well, they're coming back in. I do know what you're saying.
I don't think that's the case. I really don't.
That's a big call.
Yeah, I think he's earned the right to stay in the team, and Alisson's going to have to dislodge him. We had this argument about players that are absolute guarantees to play. It's not a guarantee for me that Alisson just comes back, gets fit, and then goes straight back in the team. I don't agree. He's been brilliant on one-on-ones. Anfield. I won't say at Anfield, in games for Liverpool this season. I hope I'm not putting the old boogie thing on him, but he's been fantastic and he's grown as a goalkeeper as well. And I don't want to lose him from Liverpool. I think he wants game time, number 1, to be the number 1. I think he's got the chance to be number 1.
Well, this again is being based on what some of the newspaper articles not that long ago where this was prior to Alisson's injury, where he had said, I need to move on, I need to play first team football. He has now fortuitously been given that chance because of that injury. And like you say, he's taken it. And it'd be interesting, again, we keep throwing out these text conversations, but it'd be interesting to hear from Liverpool fans, if you agree with what Cass is saying, is that should it all be now focusing on Kelleher as the number one for Liverpool?
Have a battle.
Oh, you can't have two number ones.
No.
What?
Well, the number one for me at the moment is Kelleher, and even Alisson comes back, I still think Kelleher should stay number one.
Okay, all right. You've opened up a can of worms with this Alisson Kelleher chat. If you hadn't tuned in just moments ago, Cass very much rooting for even Kelleher to remain as the number one for Liverpool if and when Alisson is fit. You don't think Alisson should get back into the side as easily as just because he is fit. Although a number of our listeners are just confirming to us that Arne Slot has made it perfectly clear that Alisson is the number one. He said he will be our first goalkeeper if he is fit. He says Caoimhin has done an outstanding job last season and this season again as well. But the moment he says Alisson will be fit, he will be our first goalkeeper.
I think we consider that. I mean, look, like I said earlier, he's made loads of incredible decisions of how it's just been an amazing start to the season for Liverpool. And I think Kelleher has played a big part in that. And I know that Alisson gets injured. I know they've brought another goalkeeper in for next season, but I wouldn't want to sell Kelleher. I think there's a goalkeeper that has a hell of a lot of improvement in him. And if anything, Alisson, who has had a number of injuries over recent season, I'm not sure he'll be the keeper he was for Liverpool, because he was a fantastic keeper and still is a great goalkeeper.
It's a bit of an old boys brigade here, because your former Republic of Ireland teammate, John Aldridge, agrees with you. He says that Caoimhin, he says he's been excellent with regards to Kelleher. I actually think Arne Slot has got a really big decision to make in the next few weeks. He says, I don't think it's fair that Kelleher gets demoted to the bench.
No. I think it's a battle that will... You know, you have to think about sometimes of a young lad that improves. I mean, Kelleher's what now, Nat? 23, 24?
I think it's 24, yeah.
24? Goalkeeper, that's really young for a keeper. And if he improves... Now, I always reference Martinez at Arsenal when he was there and he was the second keeper. I think Arsenal have had 4 less capable goalkeepers than him, and yet he went on at 28 to go and join Villa. And it's clearly, for me, better than the 4 that preceded him under Arteta. And I think Kelleher is improving goalkeeper. He's at the age where he will get better.
Well, as I say, majority seem to be backing Alisson to be the number one for Liverpool.
It's been a legend.
This text that I'm just looking at right now is from Aiken, I think it is. I hope I've got that right. He says about the fact that Kelleher, he says at this point, bearing in mind that Mamadashvili is going to come in, the keeper, next season, he says at this point, I'd be very much saying, Kelleher, if you want to go, it's time to be someone else's number one. As I mentioned, a lot of you already confirming to us what Slot had said, that Alisson is the number one, and also confirming, obviously, that Mamadashvili still is to come in. Come on, Tony, this one said, Alisson is recognised as one of the best keepers in the world. Fabulous as Kelleher has been. I don't think you can argue that. I'd put Alisson straight back in because he's earned it over seasons, going back onto loyalty, he says.
Yeah, I understand. I think loyalty is a great thing to have, and I get it. I think Liverpool have got a goalkeeper that will get better, and I don't see Alisson playing to the level he once was because of the injuries he's had and how often he's been injured. I'm not going to say a decline, because goalkeepers can be still really good in their mid-30s. But I'd rather keep an eye on this young lad and really convince him that he's got a chance to be the number one at Liverpool. I think he's deserved it.
Yeah. Just finally, just to give some balance, this one does agree with you. I love Alisson, but he is getting injury prone. The Georgian keeper is coming in next year, and if we stick with Alisson and he gets injured next season, we could easily end up with 2 new unproven goalkeepers. Unfortunately, he says, I would move Alisson on and let Kelleher and the new guy fight it out for the number one spot.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.